What started as low-key gossip behind closed doors has suddenly exploded into something nobody saw coming. Because now, the deeper people dig into this situation surrounding E.J. Johnson, the less it feels like harmless internet chatter, and the more it starts looking like a story people were never supposed to question in the first place. Quiet conversations are allegedly turning into leaked claims, private whispers are becoming public speculation, and according to insiders, certain names keep surfacing in ways that are making Hollywood very uncomfortable. Then out of nowhere, one person gets dragged into the center of it all, 50 Cent. And the second that happened, the energy completely changed. Now to be clear, nothing has been officially verified. No hard proof. No confirmed receipts. But despite that, the internet has stopped treating this like random celebrity drama. Because once people began piecing together certain details, the conversation took a darker turn. Suddenly, this wasn't just being framed as gossip about relationships anymore. People started hinting at manipulation, influence, loyalty, and the kind of private industry dynamics nobody talks about publicly unless something goes seriously wrong. And honestly, that's where this whole thing starts feeling disturbing. Because according to the growing narrative online, this may be less about romance and more about emotional fallout. About trust being broken behind closed doors. About someone possibly getting pulled into circles they never fully understood until it was too late. Then comes the twist nobody can avoid. The attention slowly shifts toward Magic Johnson himself, a man who has spent decades building the image of the calm, supportive father who always stays 10 steps ahead of controversy. But now people are looking at him differently. They are asking whether there's more happening behind the scenes than anyone realizes, and why every part of this situation suddenly feels so controlled, so carefully contained. Again, there are no verified facts tying everything together. Just allegations, speculation, and a flood of reactions spreading faster by the hour. But the internet doesn't care about waiting anymore. Because if even a small piece of this story turns out to be true, then this isn't just another celebrity scandal. This could become something much more personal, much more damaging. And judging by how fast things are escalating, it feels like we're only seeing the beginning. What makes this situation feel different now is that it's no longer moving like ordinary internet drama, it's growing into something far more complicated. Because what began as random accusations scattered across social media is suddenly starting to connect in ways people can't ignore anymore. And according to insiders, every trail, every conversation, every resurfaced clip somehow keeps circling back to one person, E.J. Johnson. At first, most people dismissed the entire thing as another viral moment fueled by shock value and online reactions. Just flashy headlines, controversial soundbites, and clips designed to get attention. But now that those videos are spreading wider, people aren't walking away with answers, they are walking away with even bigger questions. And that's exactly why the tension keeps building. Because instead of dying down, the conversation seems to get stranger every time a new clip resurfaces. Certain moments are being replayed frame by frame. Old interviews are suddenly being looked at differently. Reactions that once seemed harmless are now being interpreted in completely new ways. And the deeper people go into this rabbit hole, the more they start feeling like there's another layer hidden underneath everything the public has already seen. For years, E.J. Johnson has built a public image around living unapologetically on his own terms, refusing to be boxed in, refusing to follow expectations, and embracing an identity that challenged the way people traditionally label others. To some, that confidence made him inspiring. To others, mysterious. But either way, he became someone people couldn't stop watching because he represented a lifestyle that didn't fit neatly into the categories the public was used to understanding. And for a while, that seemed to be the entire story. A celebrity rewriting the rules for himself in front of the world. But just when people thought they understood the narrative, the conversation suddenly took a sharp turn into much darker territory. Because according to insiders, this is no longer only about identity or self-expression anymore. Now the whispers are shifting toward private circles, hidden connections, relationships that allegedly existed far away from the cameras and carefully managed public image. And that's where the situation starts becoming messy. Because once discussions move from public persona into alleged private interactions, the tone changes instantly. Suddenly people aren't just debating appearances anymore. They are questioning motives, loyalty, influence, and what may have really been happening behind closed doors while the public saw something completely different. And the more those rumors spread, the more this entire story starts feeling less like celebrity gossip, and more like the beginning of a much deeper unraveling. Because now one particular allegation has suddenly resurfaced, and according to people following this story closely, it's the exact detail that's changing the entire direction of the conversation. The claim revolves around the kind of attention E.J. Johnson allegedly receives behind the scenes, attention that some say doesn't fully match the public labels and assumptions attached to him for years. And once that contradiction started spreading online, everything escalated fast. Now people aren't just reacting emotionally, they are dissecting every detail. Social media has turned into a non-stop debate filled with theories, screenshots, old interviews, and clips being analyzed from completely different angles. Because the question suddenly becoming impossible to ignore is this: if the image the public sees doesn't fully line up with the reality insiders are hinting at, then what exactly has been happening away from the cameras this entire time? And that's where the atmosphere changes again. Because just as those questions begin gaining momentum and the speculation reaches another level, a new voice unexpectedly enters the conversation. Someone whose involvement instantly makes the situation feel far more explosive than before. Suddenly, this doesn't feel like isolated gossip anymore. It feels like pieces of something much larger are starting to connect in real time. Because now a very specific rumor has been dragged back into public view, and people online are treating it like the missing piece that suddenly makes everything feel more complicated. The claim centers around the type of attention E.J. Johnson allegedly attracts in private, attention that some believe completely clashes with the labels and assumptions attached to him publicly for years. And once that contradiction entered the conversation, the internet latched onto it immediately. Now social media is flooded with people asking the same uncomfortable question. If the public narrative doesn't fully match what insiders are quietly implying behind the scenes, then what truth has been hidden underneath the image all this time? And the moment that question started spreading, another unexpected voice entered the chaos, pushing the story into an entirely different direction. Because suddenly this stopped being only about E.J. Johnson. The conversation became bigger than one celebrity. It turned into a reflection of how quickly society reacts when private lives become public entertainment. How fast opinions form. How brutally the internet tears apart anything that feels mysterious or contradictory. And according to insiders, this is the exact moment where the pressure intensified beyond control. What once existed quietly behind closed doors allegedly became public spectacle overnight. Personal lives became trending topics. Private tension became content for millions to consume. And that's when the spotlight widened beyond just one person. Because now people are connecting this situation to a much larger discussion happening inside Hollywood itself, a discussion about image management, hidden influence, carefully crafted personas, and the possibility that not everything presented to the public is as authentic as it seems. And right in the middle of that growing speculation, another major name suddenly surfaces: 50 Cent. At first, it's subtle. A mention in passing. A rumored connection. A few resurfaced clips that people begin rewatching with completely different eyes. Nothing concrete. Nothing officially confirmed. But when someone known for exposing people and publicly calling out industry behavior gets loosely tied to a situation like this, the internet immediately starts digging deeper. Old interviews are suddenly dissected. Body language gets analyzed. Reactions that once meant nothing are now being treated like hidden clues pointing towards something bigger. And honestly, that uncertainty is exactly what keeps this entire story alive. Because right now there's still no verified proof tying everything together. Only speculation, online theories, emotional reactions, and a growing feeling that there may be far more happening beneath the surface than anyone originally realized. And if that's true, then what the public is witnessing right now may not even be the scandal itself, it may only be the build-up. But then the narrative shifts again. Because this no longer feels limited to identity or personal choices anymore. Now it's about contradiction. About perception versus reality. And according to insiders, people have started paying less attention to what E.J. Johnson is saying directly and more attention to how everyone around him seems to be reacting in real time. That's when the atmosphere changes completely, because once a private situation transforms into a public debate, every silence, every reaction, and every missing answer suddenly starts carrying weight. Now the entire conversation starts shifting into something far more uncomfortable, not wild accusations, not outright denials, but a growing battle between perception and reality. Because people are no longer just reacting emotionally to headlines anymore. They are starting to question what's genuine, what's performative, and how much of the public image surrounding these celebrities has been carefully constructed from the very beginning. And even without anyone directly confirming anything, the tension surrounding the situation keeps getting heavier by the day. What makes this more intense is that nobody is saying too much outright, but at the same time, nobody seems completely silent either. And that gray area is exactly what's making the internet spiral. Because just as people begin settling into one version of the story, another layer quietly slips into the conversation. According to insiders, certain voices connected to the entertainment industry have allegedly started dropping subtle hints, comments that seem vague on the surface, but specific enough to make people stop and look twice. No direct names. No official accusations. Just cryptic reactions, awkward pauses during interviews, side comments that suddenly feel loaded once they are replayed online. And the more those moments circulate, the more people begin wondering whether these are random coincidences or carefully disguised signals from people who know more than they are willing to say publicly. That uncertainty is what's making the atmosphere feel so tense right now, because the story no longer feels like simple internet gossip. It feels like something hovering right beneath the surface, waiting for one wrong move to completely explode. And that's the exact moment the entire atmosphere surrounding this story changes. Because now it's no longer just random users online throwing theories around for entertainment. Suddenly, people with alleged industry connections start entering the conversation, not directly exposing anything, but dropping enough subtle reactions and carefully worded comments to make the situation feel far more serious than before. And once that started happening, the internet stopped treating this like ordinary celebrity gossip. That's when the spotlight widened beyond E.J. Johnson and landed directly on 50 Cent. At first, the connection seemed minor. A few resurfaced clips here. A strange interaction there. Old interviews getting replayed. Certain moments people ignored in the past suddenly being analyzed with completely different energy. And the more viewers revisited those clips, the more they started convincing themselves that something hidden might have been sitting in plain sight the entire time. But then the situation takes another unexpected turn. Because what started as quiet speculation suddenly begins evolving into something much more intense. People aren't just revisiting old footage anymore, they are comparing timelines, dissecting reactions, and looking for inconsistencies in ways that make the entire narrative feel unstable. Every expression, every comment, every awkward pause suddenly becomes part of a much larger puzzle the internet is desperately trying to solve. And once that level of scrutiny begins, stories like this stop fading away quietly, they start escalating. Because now people believe they are noticing something far more complicated than random internet speculation. Not evidence, not direct confirmation, but a growing contrast between the image certain celebrities present publicly and the way situations allegedly get handled once the cameras are gone. And according to insiders, that contrast is exactly what triggered this entire second explosion of attention online. Because when someone builds an entire reputation around exposing other people, criticizing hypocrisy, and calling out hidden behavior in the industry, audiences naturally begin holding that same person to an even harsher standard. Every old interview suddenly matters. Every reaction gets replayed. Every facial expression, every joke, every uncomfortable moment from the past starts carrying a completely different meaning once people believe there could be more beneath the surface. And right now, that's exactly what's happening to 50 Cent. The internet is dissecting everything connected to him from every possible angle, trying to figure out whether these resurfaced moments are meaningless coincidences or pieces of a larger story slowly revealing itself in public. Of course, not everyone is buying into the narrative. Some people are dismissing the entire thing as another manufactured internet spiral fueled by gossip and confirmation bias. But others are becoming more convinced by the day that something deeper is hiding underneath all the noise. And that division is what's making this situation even more intense, because the story no longer feels simple anymore. It's no longer just about one celebrity or one rumor. Now multiple narratives are colliding all at once: identity, influence, power, reputation, and the impossible pressure of maintaining a perfectly controlled image while millions of people search for cracks in it online. And as more layers continue stacking on top of each other, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore: this situation isn't fading away. It's growing larger every single day. More reactions, more speculation, more people entering the conversation. Which means what the public is witnessing right now may not even be the climax of the story, it may only be the middle chapter before everything escalates further. Because according to insiders, this is the exact moment where the energy surrounding the situation changes completely. The point where things stop feeling accidental and start feeling deliberate. And just when the internet reaches peak speculation, another voice allegedly enters the conversation. But this time, unlike the vague hints and indirect reactions before, the tone isn't subtle anymore. This time, it sounds personal. And the second that clip started spreading across social media, the entire mood surrounding this story changed instantly. Because up until that point, most of the conversation had been built on theories, speculation, and people trying to connect dots that may or may not have meant anything. But this felt different. The energy behind it didn't sound uncertain. It didn't sound cautious. It sounded bold, direct, almost like someone wanted the message to hit as hard as possible. There was no careful wording, no attempt to soften the impact, just raw confidence delivered in a way that immediately sent the internet into another frenzy. And once people saw that clip, the reaction online exploded almost overnight. Suddenly timelines were flooded with debates, reaction videos, reposts, and thousands of people trying to figure out whether they had just witnessed the moment this entire story crossed a line from rumor into something far more serious. But somehow, that wasn't even the biggest twist. Because while everyone was still processing the intensity of that moment, another layer quietly started surfacing in the background. And according to insiders, this new development pushed the narrative into even darker territory. What once sounded like celebrity controversy now started carrying undertones of personal betrayal, hidden pressure, and possible behind-the-scenes dynamics that nobody expected to become public. And that's the moment this story stopped feeling chaotic and started feeling dangerous. And the moment that clip began making its rounds online, the entire atmosphere surrounding this story shifted almost instantly. Because unlike the vague rumors and cautious speculation people had been throwing around before, this carried a completely different kind of energy. It didn't sound uncertain. It didn't sound accidental. It sounded intentional, sharp, fearless, and delivered like someone wanted the entire internet to hear it loud and clear. There was no hesitation in the delivery, no softened wording, no attempt to walk anything back. And honestly, that alone was enough to throw social media into complete chaos again. Within hours, people were reposting the clip everywhere, dissecting every sentence, debating every implication, and trying to figure out whether this was the moment the situation finally crossed into something far more explosive than gossip. But just as everyone thought they were beginning to understand the direction of the story, another layer suddenly emerged. And this time, the tone turns much darker. Because now the conversation allegedly starts hinting at things far beyond celebrity drama, whispers about surveillance, influence, private movements being monitored, and a level of control that makes the entire situation feel deeply unsettling. Suddenly, the narrative no longer sounds like random internet controversy. It starts sounding like people are describing a hidden system operating quietly behind the scenes, where reputations, relationships, and even personal freedom may be shaped by forces the public never sees directly. And once that idea enters the conversation, everything changes. Every clip gets viewed differently. Every interaction feels loaded with hidden meaning. Even ordinary moments involving E.J. Johnson suddenly become part of a much larger theory people online are obsessively trying to decode. The tension becomes impossible to ignore because now audiences aren't just asking what happened, they are wondering who may have been watching the entire time. And right when that uncomfortable feeling settles in, another shocking claim allegedly drops, pushing the story even deeper into territory nobody expected it to reach. Now the spotlight starts drifting away from individuals and towards something much bigger, the entertainment industry itself. Because the deeper this story goes, the more people online begin questioning whether situations like this are really isolated incidents or part of a much larger machine operating quietly behind the scenes. Suddenly the conversation turns toward influence, blocked opportunities, careers allegedly being protected, redirected, or quietly shut down before the public ever notices. And if even a small piece of those rumors holds truth, then this story stops being about one relationship or one controversy. It becomes about power. A system where reputation can allegedly shape outcomes before facts ever surface. A world where silence may carry value, where narratives can be carefully managed, and where the public only sees the version of events certain people allow them to see. And honestly, that's the moment the entire atmosphere surrounding this situation becomes much heavier. Because now all the major themes people have been debating, identity, influence, image, loyalty, pressure, begin colliding at the exact same time. And standing directly at the center of all those overlapping conversations is one name that's been impossible to avoid from the very beginning: Magic Johnson. That's when the emotional tone shifts one final time. Because after all the rumors, the resurfaced clips, the accusations, and the online chaos, the story suddenly becomes painfully personal again. Not celebrity versus celebrity. Not internet versus Hollywood. But a father and a son trapped inside a public narrative millions of strangers are trying to decode through fragments, reactions, and assumptions. And according to insiders, that emotional tension behind the scenes may be the most complicated part of all. Because this isn't only about what's allegedly being said publicly. It's about pressure, protection, expectations, and the emotional weight of maintaining an image that has existed for decades under a global spotlight. And that's exactly why this story still doesn't have a clear ending. Because despite all the theories and speculation flooding the internet, there's still no verified evidence fully connecting every piece together. No official confirmations. No undeniable proof. Just layer after layer of claims, reactions, and suspicious timing that continue feeding the conversation instead of resolving it. And the more those layers pile up, the harder it becomes for people to separate what's real from what's simply being projected onto the situation by the internet itself. So now the biggest question isn't just about what already happened, it's about what could still come out next. Because if more insiders allegedly speak up, if more clips suddenly surface, if anything concrete ever appears publicly, then this situation doesn't remain controversial. It detonates. And based on how quickly this story has already escalated, it no longer feels like people are watching the ending unfold. It feels like they are watching the pressure build toward a breaking point. Right now, nothing has been fully confirmed. No verified footage. No direct statements tying every rumor together. But somehow that uncertainty has only made the obsession grow stronger. Because the internet has stopped waiting for proof. Instead, people are searching for patterns. Patterns in interviews, patterns in reactions, patterns in body language, and even patterns in silence itself. And the more viewers analyze those details, the more one uncomfortable question continues hanging over everything. What's actually real? And what's being hidden in plain sight? So now the conversation has evolved into something even more unsettling. People aren't only asking what happened anymore, they are asking what's being protected, who benefits from the silence, and whether the public has only been seeing the surface of a much darker story this entire time. Because according to insiders, this situation has already crossed the point where it can simply disappear without consequences. At this stage, one of two things happens. Either the noise slowly fades away behind closed doors, or something suddenly forces the entire narrative into the light in a way nobody can control anymore. And apparently, that possibility is exactly what everyone is watching for right now. One leaked clip. One unexpected response. One person deciding to speak publicly. That's all it would take to completely change the direction of this story overnight. Because right now the internet feels like it's sitting in suspense, waiting for a single moment that transforms speculation into something undeniable. And until that moment either happens or doesn't, the entire situation remains trapped in a strange space, unresolved, unverified, and dangerously open to interpretation from every possible angle. And honestly, that uncertainty is the reason people can't stop paying attention. Because the story hasn't been proven true, but it also hasn't been fully shut down either. There's still enough ambiguity, enough unanswered questions, and enough emotional tension surrounding the people involved to keep millions of viewers locked into the narrative. Every new reaction reignites debate. Every resurfaced clip sparks another theory. Every silence creates even more suspicion. And the longer that cycle continues, the bigger this entire situation becomes. Which brings everything down to one final question. Are people simply witnessing another viral celebrity controversy that burns hot for a week before disappearing forever? Or are they watching the opening stages of something much larger slowly unfolding in real time? Something that hasn't fully surfaced yet because the most important pieces are still hidden underneath everything the public has already seen? Because if even a fraction of these allegations eventually turns out to have truth behind them, then this won't just be remembered as internet drama. It could shift the way people look at celebrity culture, influence, and the hidden power structures operating behind the scenes. And judging by how fast the tension has already escalated, it genuinely feels like this story may only be at the beginning of whatever comes next.